You're standing on the island of Tuvalu, waiting for them. The leaders of 10 nations, maybe more. A bead of sweat rolls down your cheek. Is it the scorching heat? Or the pressure of the moment? The island's solitary ute rolls by. The locals know to make way. Seconds ago, this was a makeshift soccer pitch. Now, it's an airstrip. On the horizon, you spot the Hercules aircraft. Landing gear extended. They're here. Something big is about to happen that will shape the future of the Pacific. And you found yourself in the middle of it. For a guy who used to flip burgers in Brisbane, you ask yourself, how did I get here?
Alex Stiles loves the performing arts and is a self-professed film nerd with a passion for epics like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. He's also a corporal in the Royal Australian Air Force and specialises in Air Force logistics. And we just got a glimpse into his mind during his incredible deployment to Tuvalu. I'm your host, Nick Musgrove. I'm a film and TV writer, and this is How Did I Get Here? A podcast about incredible stories in the ADF. So what was a film buff with a passion for performance doing in Tuvalu, a nation in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? Let's find out. Alex, welcome.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you on. I know you're into film. I've got to say, standing on the shores of a picturesque Pacific island with a plane on the horizon heading your way, it sounds like the start of a great film. Firstly, what were you doing there?
So I was part of 382 Squadron at that point, and we were assigned to be part of the Pacific Island Forum in 2019 to support the existing islands' infrastructure.
So paint a picture of Tuvalu for me. I'm fascinated to know, what were your first impressions when you arrived?
All right, so it's picturesque. The main island, with 50% of the country's population, is on an island about just over the length of a runway. So yeah, it was definitely populated with some of the friendliest people I've ever met as well.
And so the Pacific Island Forum, what was this about and why was it happening in Tuvalu?
There's a forum that brings all of the leaders from the Pacific region together to kind of address some of the points that are most important to that region. So Tuvalu, being only 4.5 meters above sea level, is actually one of the countries that is most under threat for rising sea levels. So there was a big focus on that.
But with that comes challenges presumably related to infrastructure, which is where you can help.
Yeah, there wasn't enough regular flights to ferry the dignitaries that were expected to come. So we deployed the Air Force there and set up that kind of shuttle run.
So what sort of planes are they being flown in on?
A C-130, a Hercules C-130.
And that's a really big plane, right?
Yeah, definitely. We actually had our airfield engineering crew deploy to that island a little while before and check the health of the runway, and actually came down to the mathematical equation of exactly how many landings can happen on that airfield of what weight aircraft, and that was done by our airfield engineer and his team from 382.
Let's talk about the runway a little more. It's not a runway as people would usually picture one, was it?
Nah, so I remember from being there, it is almost the main highway of the island. So when it's not being used as a runway, which is, 99% of the time, it is just kind of like a main road. It's also, that's where the kids play soccer and people hang out. And then, there's an old ute that will just kind of sound at sirens, head down the runway and let everyone know that, hey, there's actually an aircraft coming, so get off. And they all seem pretty used to that. Like, okay, cool, they'll get off the runway. Aircraft will come land, and then life back to normal.
How did you go about connecting with locals from a cultural perspective?
Yeah, okay, so Tuvalu is pretty close to Samoa, which is where my mum's from, where my heritage is from. So once I was able to actually connect and speak to some of the locals, we did actually get to talk about our shared Polynesian heritage. Unfortunately, I don't speak fluent Samoan or anything, but there were definitely some key phrases that we got brought up with. Everyone that I worked with would just naturally say Tuvalu, and I was able to remind my colleagues that the locals would actually pronounce it Tuvalu.
And was that a point of pride for you that you had that insight?
Yeah, I guess it was. Nick.
So on your heritage, growing up, you were actually one of 8 children, at times being raised solely by your mum, and things could be pretty tough.
Yeah, look, I will say that we were in a household that was filled with love, but I do look back on, at my family and us 8 siblings that all grew up together and went through, some really tricky times. Those bonds are still there, and they were forged in those tough times. So.
And things were challenging also on the way home from school sometimes. I know you and your brother had the task sometimes of trying to make a few dollars go a long way when it came to feeding the family.
Yeah, so I remember a few situations where sometimes it would literally just be like, hey, can you grab a pack of 48 toilet rolls on the way home? So you're sitting on the bus trying to look as cool as you can because you're a teenage boy and you've got this massive toilet roll on your lap, which, you just, it was a bit rough. But then other times, we were tasked with two $50 notes, so like $100. All right, on the way home, can you please do the weekly groceries? We need to feed 9 or 10 people for the next week. You've got $100. And I remember my brother and I would have a calculator. We had an actual proper calculator, and we would spend, sometimes it took hours because we would be there like swapping, what if we swap that one for the cheaper home brand, we might be able to get this, this for dinner.
When you're in the supermarket now, how often do you think about calculator in hand, trying to hit the $100 mark to feed so many people?
You know what? I remember speaking to a friend recently. We were having like a real opening up. And I spent so much of my younger life just feeling out of place and one of the others and embarrassed about who I was and, scrimping for the basic necessities. Now, and I was saying this to my friend, I can literally go out and buy, more or less any food I want. I can treat myself to, whatever I want to wear. Like, if you were to say this to younger me, it was just a future that I even barely dared to consider what would ever actually happen. And just to every now and then to look back and realize what I have now, and I try not to take for granted, but I just feel super fortunate that I was able to kind of rise from it and then forge forward. And for me, eventually joining the military was a step forward into kind of like building something out of myself.
Beautiful. So you still have a close relationship with your siblings?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
And you think part of that is the bond that was formed under adversity, much like those early days in the ADF?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do actually remember going through basic training, 1 RTU, 12 weeks at Wagga. I do remember having this feeling in my head being like, you've been through adversity, you've got this. And also that kind of remembering to lean on the people around you and to kind of come together and help each other out.
So when you're finishing high school, you still have baby sisters who are in nappies. Did you feel like you were part parent as well?
Yeah. I remember coming home from school and all of us older siblings being part parents of the younger ones, and there would be babysitting duty and making bottles, and you're cooking, so you're cooking pots and pots of like enough to feed 10 people, and then dishes, and then by the time you finish doing all that and putting the kids to bed and stuff, it's like 9 o'clock, 9:30, and I haven't even started my own homework, and I'm in year 12. Waking up at like 2 a.m. and one of my younger sisters making a bottle because they're crying, and walking them around the lounge room, eventually getting them to bed, and then also like an hour's more sleep before school. And when you're at that point, you're just doing what you can to survive, right? You're just getting it done.
Do you think it's an entire coincidence when you were managing so much as a kid that you ended up in logistics?
I don't think so. I think this kind of organizational sense that I have to make sure everything's good to go, everything's been prepped, and that we're going to be okay, I think does kind of played into, okay, if I'm going to join the military, what is it that I should do? What could I do? And I think that did inform that decision in a roundabout way, yeah.
Alex, you moved between your parents' homes growing up. You actually lived with your dad in New Zealand for a couple of years, but then you came back to Australia to study an advanced diploma in film and TV production. You must obviously have a performative side and a love of film and television.
Yeah, so growing up, I was actually a bit of a theatre kid. I was in the concert band, I was in a marching drum band, I was even in the school choir, even though I can't sing. So I was definitely more into the creative arts, and I thought that was going to be my future.
And there was a tipping point where you'd been thinking about joining the ADF, and you actually received an offer for a promotion or an opportunity whilst working at McDonald's.
Yeah, I worked for an awesome franchisee, and he was like, Alex, I'd love for you to manage one of my restaurants and stuff like that, which is awesome feedback to hear. But I knew that my future wasn't in McDonald's, and that's when it really dawned on me, Alex, like if you don't kind of leave and kind of create your own path now, you might end up just staying here out of complacency. So I politely declined and said, look, I think my future's somewhere else. So that's when I was really reflecting, and that's when I figured joining the military could be a way to instill some of that structure around me. And a solid foundation for me to be able to, grow and develop, not just as a worker, but as a human being.
So I imagine you might have been worried. You obviously have a performative side, which is a really important part of your personality. Were you worried that if you joined the ADF, you would have to suppress that side, or there would be no outlet for that?
Yeah, look, that was definitely something that came up in my mind, and I can happily say that wasn't the case. In fact, that little weirdly creative spark of mine not only hasn't been suppressed, but it's actually been something that I can bring forward into all of my different workplaces in the ADF that has generally been, well received, and seen me being able to organise, family days with, well over 1,000 attendees, or really successful Christmas functions for squadrons and stuff like that. Yeah, so absolutely.
And it sounds like you found your people when you joined the ADF, perhaps a little bit unexpectedly.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you told younger me that I was going to end up in the military like my dad, that wouldn't have been my guess. But I do look back at me in my early 20s. To this day, I'm still thankful that even back then I was able to make that decision. And my advice has been all throughout my career, if you've left school and you're not quite sure what you want to do, you may as well be treading water in an awesome career, getting paid well, awesome opportunities to learn things, experience these weird and wonderful, unique opportunities and experiences.
So let's dive into that first year in the ADF. You underwent your initial training at RAF Base Wagga in 2013, as you've mentioned. You were then posted to RAF Base Amberley in Queensland. What were your day-to-day duties there?
Okay, so there I was actually posted to 1EHS into the logistics section there. It was a field hospital style squadron, so different capabilities, equipment, stores. So that's where I kind of cut my teeth in the logistics side of things.
So after your time there, it was 4 years at RAF Base Williamtown in New South Wales. That's where you got to work with some pretty serious fighter jets. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough at Newcastle, at RAF Base Williamtown, to be posted to a flying squadron, 3 Squadron, which is a squadron that flies the F-35s. That was an absolutely awesome time in my career, supporting what is a pretty cool capability that the Air Force has.
So what's an F-35? Talk me through what that aircraft is and can do.
Oh, okay. So, F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. It is the Air Force's newest aircraft platform, newest jet. It's a pretty impressive piece of equipment. When we were there, I had the pleasure of not only deploying to places in Australia like Melbourne for Avalon Air Show, or up to Darwin, but I also went to Hawaii, Las Vegas, Florida, and Alaska, all as a logistic support for the F-35.
Let's talk about some of those amazing places you mentioned. What brought you to Vegas?
Yeah, so I was over there in support of an exercise where our Australian pilots were there flying with some of the other best pilots in the world to make sure that their skills are the best. That was really awesome. Vegas is a sensory overload. It's such an awesome city, so much happening. But we actually managed to have a bit of time off, and some of my colleagues and I on a weekend we actually went and spent a few days out of the Grand Canyon, which is just some of these breathtaking views. So you go from like the lights of Vegas, and next thing you know, you're in the American desert at the Grand Canyon, looking at that view. So yeah, that was an awesome experience. So,
and tell me about Alaska. That sounds incredible.
So all up, ended up there for 2.5 months in just this other part of the world that I never thought I'd ever get to. So the work itself was really cool, really formative. It was a first for me to deploy with an aircraft platform. But a lot of the stuff that we got to do outside of work was pretty cool as well. So we were able to relax under the Northern Lights, which was something I never knew I was going to be able to do. We even, on a day off, we went kayaking around some glaciers in the snow and stuff like that.
So it was covered in snow, you're kayaking. By night, the Northern Lights are visible.
Yeah.
That is a long way from McDonald's in Brisbane.
Yeah. It was literally one of those, how did I get here moments.
I'm not sure which is cooler, like seeing the Northern Lights and kayaking and seeing all that incredible wildlife, or actually working with the F-35 jet. So are you getting in the cockpits? Are you servicing them physically, or are you supplying the logistics that then get inputted into the jets? How does it all work?
Yes, every aircraft platform will have a large contingent of aircraft technicians, very important. And I would be in the logistics cell that gives them what they need to make sure that jet is serviceable for the mission on the next day.
We're going to return now to the 2019 Pacific Forum. Some of the world's biggest and most important leaders from the Pacific are arriving, including Australia's own PM. Feels like a lot of pressure. You've been frantically getting everything ready. What are you feeling as the planes are rolling in?
So yeah, I do remember for me, I was a leading aircraftsman at the time, so still quite a junior airman. This was the first time I was ever deployed in a situation like this, where I was like the sole logistics member. I do remember feeling the pressure a bit. I hadn't had that amount of responsibility on my shoulders yet through my career. And yeah, we understood the importance. With the meeting Scott Morrison and him talking to us about exactly what it is that the Pacific Island Forum was there to do, and the importance of it. So
you actually got to meet him.
Yeah, definitely. He came and met us and shook our hand and thanked us and spoke about why we're all there. I remember him being a big guy. Like, he could definitely be like a front row of a football team.
And he talked to you about the importance of what you were doing. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I guess a sense of pride and an affirmation of like all the hard work that you've been doing. You've just been your head down, sweating, making sure that you've done what you are there responsible to do. But then just to take a breather. And then be reminded by, the Prime Minister of all people, that you're doing a good job. Yeah, it means a lot.
So day to day, there was plenty to do to make sure that the forum had everything they needed. You had one of the only vehicles on the island.
Yeah, one of the only vehicles. I do actually remember one time we needed to fill up the vehicle. We needed to stock it up with fuel. So there isn't necessarily a fuel station. So we're actually driving up the runway, but kind of like, using it as a main road. And we kind of pulled into a backyard of these big Polynesian guys. They even kind of look like we were related. But yeah, we pulled in and we said we needed fuel. And their method of filling up the car was that they would get ice cream tubs and hand pump it into an ice cream tub and pour that into a funnel into the vehicle. And every one of those was like, I've forgotten, a certain amount of money. So that's like $10. And the amount of ice cream tubs that they use to fill your car, it's 8 ice cream tubs. All right, that's $80. Which, it was. You just go to these different parts of the world and just see how like different societies function. It's awesome. It's fascinating.
It's a pay per tub system.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Tuvalu.
and it seems to work. So.
And did you strike up a little bit of a rapport with the guys helping you refuel?
Yeah, definitely. I spoke to them, and I spoke about my Polynesian heritage, and we spoke about that. I think we even got a photo like back to back, arms crossed, looking really cool with them, which they appreciated. But I'm pretty sure they were just a couple of big Polynesian guys, no tops on because it's 40 degrees, just chilling in the backyard. Nicest guys.
Now, you actually slept in the town hall, and there was a moment when you're all sweltering in the town hall where your love of film really paid for itself, both of you and for everybody else. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so one of our members brought over a little mobile projector he put in his backpack, and out at the back of the town hall, just back straight up onto this beautiful beach, picturesque beach. And what I did one night towards the end is we hung up like a sheet on the beach, like on the back patio, and had our own little cinema set up. We got out all our chairs, we got some snacks, and I put little posters around the town hall, letting everyone know that tomorrow night there's going to be a screening of Game Night, which ended up being a really funny movie.
Great film.
And I just remember, like, we got it all set up, and everyone that was available came and relaxed. And by then you got a bit of an evening breeze coming through, and watching like an awesome film. I remember sitting there. It was really one of those. I love what I do.
Alex, on Australia Day in 2020, both for your efforts in Tuvalu and for your career more generally, you actually received an Australia Day Medallion. Obviously, objectively an extraordinary achievement, but also for you personally, you'd have to overcome quite a lot of adversity growing up. Did it hit home in that moment just how far you'd come?
Yeah, I was definitely blindsided. I was not expecting, an award or anything like that. It was really humbling and really appreciated. You just work hard every day. You do the best that you can. Some days are better than others. But, to be recognised for your efforts, it means a lot.
So, Alex, you have achieved so much in such a short amount of time. You've seen the Northern Lights, you've seen the Grand Canyon, you've been all around the world, you've worked with F-35 jets, you've shaken hands with prime ministers, and you've facilitated enormous events like the Pacific Forum. Knowing all of that, looking back to your younger self, is there a message you would give to young Alex?
Yeah, I would definitely say to younger me to relax. Like it's not a race. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Have faith in yourself as well. If doing something, for example, joining the military is daunting, to back yourself and to look inside and say, no, you know what, you've got the goods. You go show them. It would also be, look, once you leave school, you're going to be lost for a little bit. Go out there and find something to kind of give you that purpose and stability, which for me happened to be joining the ADF and joining the Air Force, and to definitely use the people in your life, the relationships and the bonds that you have, use them as your strength. And that's something that, helped me prior to joining the ADF and has definitely been integral in my success and my journey in the ADF as well.
Alex, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks everyone for listening. To learn more about careers in the ADF, head to the link in the episode description and join us again soon for more incredible stories on How Did I Get Here?